Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome to... there's something missing here. Just a second, I'll be right back. Or will I? Hey everyone, my name is definitely not Wedge, and welcome to the Manosaurus Halloween special. Woo, yeah, spooky! In the holiday spirit, today's video is a casual deck tech of our spooky skeleton strategy. If you like kitchen table magic and unusual tribal decks, you're really gonna enjoy this. Our skeleton strategy is a tribal deck at heart, so we want to jam in as many bony attackers as we possibly can while keeping the curve low and the value high. The deck's about amassing a board presence that isn't easy to get rid of. We're playing skeletons after all. It's kind of the point that they don't go away. You get it. Let's do this. The deck runs 24 lands, 2 spawning pool because it's oozing with flavor, and creating skeletons that can regenerate is exactly what we're looking for. The rest of the lands are 20 snow-covered swamps and 2 scrying sheets. Trust me, there's a reason we're running snow-covered swamps. Plus, since we are, Scrying Sheets is a great way to draw your way out of a mana flood. It's no course or a crew fix, but in a casual game, I have no bone to pick with it. Moving right along, so why include snow-covered swamps instead of just swamps? Our deck starts off with 4 Rimebound Dead. Easily the best 1-mana skeleton out there, but you need snow-covered mana to pay for its regeneration. Since there's no downside in running the snowlands, they were an easy inclusion, so we could get full value off of Rimebound. In the 2-mana slot, we have playsets of both Grim Roustabout and Drudge Skeletons. The Roustabout is a strong casual card since you're going to be unleashing it every time you play it. A 2/2 for 2 with a cheap regeneration cost is perfect on curve for this strategy. Drudge Skeletons, on the other hand, is merely the next best 2-mana skeleton we wanted to run. It regenerates cheaper than the other 2-mana options, and that's easily enough to warrant its inclusion. We're a skeleton tribal strategy. We need all the skeletons. The 3-mana slot is where things get nasty. 4 Death Baron are an auto-include. 3 mana for a 2/2 that gives all your skeleton creatures +1/+1 and Death Touch? Yes, please. While he isn't a skeleton himself, the value of his ability makes it worth it. Plus, you can always run him in the ever-popular Brains zombie tribal deck. This guy is a spooky tribal lore to the bone, and he does it well. The other bomb 3-drop is Lim-Dul's High Guard. A 2/1 skeleton that can regenerate for 2 mana seems a bit spineless by our standards. However, when you add First Strike, it becomes one of the best skeletons ever printed for this kind of strategy. There are multiple ways in the deck to grant a Death Touch, and we all know how dangerous Death Touch plus First Strike is. You'll have your opponent shaking in their boots out of fright. I mean, look at that art. No one wants to fight an armored skeleton with 2 left arms carrying swords and a chain where its right arm used to be. This is legitimately terrifying art. Exactly what we need. For us to include any creatures past 3 mana, they have to be dripping with horrific value. Paragon of Open Graves in the 4 slot does just that. A 4-mana 2/2 is but he gives all your black creatures a +1/+1 boost, and he can give any of them Death Touch in case you don't have a Death Baron in play. Best part, he's a skeleton himself. Fits perfectly into our cozy little boneyard. The last creature in the deck is all the way up at 6 mana, but it's well worth it. Skeletal Vampire is a 3/3 flying skeleton. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 1/1 black bat tokens with flying. If you have enough mana, you can start sacrificing bats to create more bats, or just sacrifice a bat to regenerate the vampire. This card just has synergy with the rest of the deck. It's black, so it gets the buff from Paragon. It's a skeleton, so it gets the buff from Death Baron. And the bats are black, so they also become 2/2s with Paragon in play. That's monstrous board presence. If you want super value, give the bats Death Touch with the Paragon and have them trade with anything. You'll have your opponents crying in the corner in no time. With the 26 creatures in the deck out of the way, let's talk spells. There are 6 enchantments and 4 sorceries. A playset of Duress does what it always has. Protect your creatures against board wipes or any type of removal, really. You're a tribal strategy. Gotta keep stuff on the board. But that should be easy since your entire army is so used to being brought back from the dead. Now for the enchantments. 3 Bad Moon puts some meat on the bones of every single creature you play, including the bats from Skeletal Vampire. Plus it's only 2 mana. You could play your Rimebound Dead turn 1, then drop this turn 2, and you have a 1-mana 2/2 that can regenerate for 1 mana. Bad Moon is just way too good in a strategy like this. The last card in the deck is a trio of Withering Wisps. This is a card a lot of players have never even heard of, but it also takes advantage of our snowlands. At the beginning of the end step, if no creatures are on the battlefield, sacrifice it. You can pay 1 black to have it deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. You can activate the ability no more times each turn than the number of snow swamps you control. Welcome to our most dangerous win condition. You keep buffing your skeletons, then release the plague on everything on the battlefield. The only limitation of the card isn't even bad for you since your entire mana base is filled with snow-covered lands. Now that we have all the pieces, let's talk winning. As far as kitchen table decks go, this one is pretty straightforward, but the Withering Wisps is a huge surprise most players won't be ready for. You honestly just play as many creatures as you can, as fast as you can. Get a Bad Moon or Paragon of Open Graves onto the field and just keep attacking. Whenever you run out of creatures, play your Withering Wisps and activate it as many times as possible forever. You're going to be faster than most strategies, and you trade way better than almost anyone else thanks to how many cards in your deck grant you Death Touch. And that's not to mention that most of your creatures can regenerate. It's going to be pure chaos, but trust me, just spam the ability on Withering Wisps. The entire game will fall apart like a sack of bones with no meat to hold it together. Ew. For those of you who really like this strategy and want to add some power to it, run Cavern of Souls and Skittles the Blight Dragon. If you still have friends after that, well, kudos to them for looking past your faults. What do you think about our Spooky Skeletons casual deck? I, for one, really like it a lot. I'm not usually a fan of non-blue tribal decks, but this one's pretty cool, you gotta admit. Withering Wisps is just a wonderful card for everything ever. Anyways, what sort of Halloween decks can you come up with? I'd love to hear some ideas in the comments. Also, if you celebrate Halloween, what costume are you going with this year? Do you like the Halloween Cadbury eggs? Just the important questions being asked here as per usual. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable match at the gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm definitely not Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.